Hey everyone, I'm Gargi. I am a freshman at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'll be talking about India today. I'm studying computer science and biostatistics, and I lived in Pune in India for 7 years, from 4th grade to 10th grade. Yeah. Thank you guys. I think that was really interesting to hear about Cuba and China. But now we'll be moving on to India. And India is also called the Republic of India or Bharat in Hindi. Okay, so I have a few focus questions for you guys, so feel free to look through them and maybe think about them. The first one is India a democracy? The next one is, does India have a two-party system or a multi-party system? And then the last one is, does India have a prime minister or a president?
And well, I think that you're going to answer these questions as we go on. So I don't know if you want to give the answers now or just wait as we continue with the presentation.
Yeah, I can answer them as we go through the slides.
Go through presentation. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we'll go into those questions, or you'll probably get the answers to those questions as you listen onward. But I think to talk about India, we first have to go back a few years and see what the history of India looks like. So I guess relatively recent history. So India used to be a colonized nation by Great Britain, and the British rule in India was called the British Raj. Raj basically means rule in Hindi. And it started in 1858 and lasted all the way until 1947. So a pretty long time. It was started by the East India Company, which came there first. And then afterward, it transitioned to being ruled by the monarch of Great Britain in 1858. It's formally not called a colony. It was called a separate realm, which shared a monarch with Great Britain. And the British Empire, I guess, commanded the Indian Army as well. So this rule lasted until 1947, at which point there was a huge struggle for independence, and independence was achieved. And this also came with the partition of India into two different parts, which included India and Pakistan. And after 1947, there was a constitution that was written, and that was, I guess, legalized in 1950. So India is a democracy, if you haven't understood by now, but it does have a constitution as well. Okay, so just a few fun facts. India is a democracy, like I said, and it's also the world's largest democracy. And then the Constitution of India is the longest written constitution of any country in the entire world, and it has about 140,000 words. And it was closely modeled after the South African Constitution. Okay, so moving into the Indian government, kind of like it says on the slide, it's a huge parliamentary, secular, constitutional, democratic republic. Keyword here is parliamentary. That's what kind of differentiates it from other democracies like the American democracy. I think the third focus question I asked was, does it have a president or a prime minister? And that was kind of a trick question because India has both a president and a prime minister. So the head of the state is the president, and currently that is Ram Nath Kovind, who's pictured here on the left. And the prime minister is Narendra Modi, and he's pictured on the right in the picture here. And as you can see, they have different roles. The president oversees the state, and he is not directly elected. He's elected by elected representatives, and the government is headed by the prime minister, and he is directly elected, he or she. Okay, and India's government is also divided into three branches, which is similar to the United States. The three branches are the executive, legislative, and judiciary. So the graphic here kind of shows you the distribution of power within India. The leftmost part talks about executive, the executive branch. And this is made up of the president, vice president, and their cabinet ministers. And these are the people who basically enforce the laws that are passed by the legislature. Second part is the legislature, and this is actually a bicameral legislature, which means that there are two different houses. So the first house is called the Lok Sabha. This one is the bigger one, and it is directly elected by the people's votes. And then the second house is called the Rajya Sabha. And this is a smaller one, and it's elected by the state representatives, basically from all 28 states of India. And both these houses basically make the laws. And the last branch is the judiciary. It's composed of all the different courts, including the district courts, as well as state courts, and the highest court in the land is the Supreme Court of India. And this judicial branch basically solves conflicts, interprets the constitution, and all of that. Okay, so India, like I said, is a democracy, and elections are held consistently. And India is actually a multi-party system. So the United States is a two-party system, like we talked about, but India has many, many parties. And there can be kind of different parties within the nation and as well as within smaller regions of the country. So on the left, there's different symbols for different parties. The leftmost one, the lotus, is the symbol of the BJP, or Bharatiya Janata Party. And this one is the party that is currently the ruling party or the majority party in India. And then the main opposition party is the second symbol, the INC, or Indian National Congress. And then the next few ones are the BSP, NCP, CPI, etc. And all of these are pretty popular in India. Like I said, some of these parties only exist on a state level. Some of these exist on the national level. And yeah, there's a lot of different options, different candidates for people to choose between. Okay, so we talked about the horizontal distribution of power between the three branches of government, but this slide talks more about the vertical distribution of power. So in India, there's a lot of different levels of government, just because there's a lot of people and we want to kind of distribute power throughout all these levels. So I guess looking from the top to the bottom, there's the president and the central government at the highest level. And then there are different states and union territories. The union territories are centrally administered, so they don't have their own governments, but the states do have their own legislative assemblies in each state. And then there's also district level governments, which are called the Zilla Parishads, and municipal corporations in the cities, which are kind of the urban form of local government. And in the rural form, after Zilla Parishads, there is also Gram Panchayat. So these are the rural local governments that are formed in each village. Okay, and just to talk a little bit more about local politics, especially focused within rural areas and villages, each village has its own Gram Sabha. So Gram Sabha is like I guess the grassroots democracy within India. Gram Sabha is the word used to refer to the village electorate. So all of the people within the village, and they all come together to elect a sarpanch or a gram pradhan, and he's basically he or she is the head of government in that local area. And the sarpanch also has other members elected along with them, and these are referred to as the Gram Panchayat. So Panchayat means five people. So there's a council of 5 people that are elected, and of course they're headed by the sarpanch. And these councils or these people usually make all the local decisions when it comes to government.